Hi, very good morning to you. We'll be very quickly approaching the new year in the next few days, guys. I want to wish you all a happy new year. Let's hope things do change. Let's hope things get a little bit better. Before we get into the video, if you go over to poleshiftnews.com, we've done an Earth Alpha update. We'll have a look at some of that a little bit later on in the video. Just a couple of things I wanted to talk about before we get into that. And as always, I want to start by saying a huge thank you to those few people that take the time out to have one of our pieces of equipment from the observatory here in the UK in their homes in different parts of the world. And thank you for putting that time in. You know, Kendall, amazing. He's always there on the dot. We've got Scott, and we also have, you know, on the east coast of Perth, Jeff down there. So amazing work for you guys, you know, that you do for us. And, you know, things hopefully will continue into the new year as they are. Just want to say, over the last 5 days, we didn't do any uploads, and what we noticed straight away is the drop off over the Christmas period of funding for the observatory. You know, we're trying to do everything we can here, and you know, we put a lot of time, effort in, and our own money. And when, you know, we don't publish a video on YouTube for some reason, we don't get any funding. I think our website has a donate link. It's separate to the YouTube one, but I think we've managed to raise in the last week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, £3.50. You can't run anything with £3.50, and you guys know that. So, you know, we need to up the level of support in order to keep doing what we do. And, you know, I have to explain nearly every video what that is, so that people know what they're actually funding. I know some of you don't need that, but what do you actually fund here at the observatory? Well, there's a lot of work that goes into building the equipment, you know, programming that equipment, and the only reason we've been able to do what we've been able to do at this point, you know, all this time, is because of the skill sets that I've got. I can program, I can build electronics, you know, I can use the tools to build the website, keep that updated, and I've got some basic skills in putting these videos together for you guys. But you know, this doesn't come together in a blink of an eye or a flash. You know, this has took years to learn those things, especially when it comes down to the more serious stuff like programming electronics. So the only way we've been able to get this far is by, you know, just putting in the hard work. I wanted to do a video just before Christmas, you know, explaining this to people, that we have been under considerable attack by YouTube and Google, to the point where they've even started now putting their little you know, spies in the comment section, trying to cause and stir up trouble with even other YouTubers. You know, it wasn't enough that they demonetized us, wasn't enough that they give us a strike. And look at where we are. Look at the topics that we're talking about. Why are they so taboo? Why can't we talk about climate? Why can't we talk about the pandemic, which is affecting everybody's life? It's not natural not to talk about these things. Another thing I wanted to talk about is one of the most depressing adverts and most propaganda adverts I've ever seen in my life on the British media, and you've probably seen it also on YouTube as well. It's a load of kids on looks like a landfill site with all the plastic behind them, and they're singing that song, "What a Wonderful World," in such a downbeat and depressing manner. You know, we have got to stop these people telling our kids and frightening them to death that this world is coming to an end. Yes, things can deteriorate from this point if we don't stick together and work out our issues globally. It's got to be done globally now. We can't, you know, just look after ourselves here in the UK, and we can't look after ourselves in the United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, etc. We can't take things in that direction where we just take care of our own, because, well, let me just tell you this: if every organism, if in your body went out for itself, your body would be dead weeks ago. You know that. That's why we have to work together on these problems. We can't solve these on our own. You know, I get the idea that people are being pacified right now with all what's going on. and that demoralises people, desensitises people to what is actually going on in our world. You know, when you hear it too much, you become anaesthetised to it. It doesn't have any effects anymore, and that is the last thing we want to do here at the observatory. We do not want to anaesthetise anybody to what is going on. I know that when you wake up and you've got some food in your house and your loved ones are around you, that it's all okay. But take a look around. Have a look at what's happening to your community. Have a look at what's happening with your neighbours, and get involved and start working together, because it will only be strength in numbers that secures some form of normality for us all in the future. If we all go out for ourselves, just like the human body, if all its organisms went out for itself, we would be dead and die off very quickly. But I just hate to see children now being used in this propaganda against climate change. I think you know as well as I know that we're not dealing with governments anymore that work on the behalf of people. Yes, they have to do a little bit of work to show that they're, you know, using the taxpayers' money responsibly. But in most cases where large amounts of money is needed, there is so much corruption now. What we have to clearly understand is that these government officials are nothing more than mafia. I've always said it. You know, the mafia, before they got involved with governments around the world, were the ones that was organising crimes, making, you know, drug dealings, large robberies, you know, big rip-offs on stock markets and stuff. But when they found out that if they could get hold of and secure a nation's taxpayers' purse, they could pretty much write checks out for themselves. And that's why our world largely is in a mess as it is. And you already know this. You don't need someone, you know, from the UK to tell you this. It should be common knowledge now that there is by no way, you know, a level of corruption to what we see right now. What I'm trying to say is, you know, every government around the world is corrupt. Let's face it. How do some of these politicians end up with millions and millions, and in some cases now billions of pounds in their own bank accounts, when they should have been paid a yearly salary to do their role? How did they get so wealthy? It was obvious, wasn't it? They was being lobbied by large corporations and companies. And you know, you might have been following a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about getting a local MP involved. Well, you know what, that has been now over a month since I've not had a reply, and still to this day not had a reply about, you know, what we was talking about, freedoms of speech, and what Google and YouTube went out and did. I just want to say, if you know, you work for Google and YouTube and you're monitoring us, it hasn't stopped. If you think because he hasn't replied to that email I've sent him that I'm going to leave it alone and be desensitised by the whole thing and think, you know what, I might as well do what everyone else does here at this point and put my head in the sand, you're wrong. I told you the fight was on. I'm not giving up. I'm going to make sure that you take some responsibility for infringing on people's human rights. I'm not going to let you get away with it. And I hope that I encourage other people to do so, because when we get to a point in time where we're prepared to let other people's freedoms be trodden and stamped into the dirt, it won't be long before there's a knock on our front door and the very same thing is happening. So when we see a slight infringement on our democracy, which we've worked for years and years to obtain, we should fight back tooth and nail. They're not going to get away with it. There's no way corporations like Meta, Facebook, which was formerly called Meta, there's no way organisations can have, you know, 4 billion people subscribe to it, which is half the world's population, and not take any responsibility for human rights. There's no way that we can have a modern democracy that allows such a thing like that. And that really is what we're pushing the MPs to do here, is to change the law, tighten up the loopholes, and make it so that big organisations that have large impacts on, half the population of the world are held accountable when they infringe on people's human rights. And that will mean when they demonetise somebody for having an opinion like we did here, they will be punished and held accountable for it. That's what we're trying to do here at this observatory, as well as keep you informed of the great changes that are taking place in our Earth. Let's just have a quick look before we end the video at what some of those changes are and some of the things that we directly involve ourselves here at the observatory on a weekly basis. Let's have a look at that. So here we are at poleshiftnews.com. If you've never been onto the website, go and have a look. We've invested a lot of time to keep you informed of a lot of things that are going on with our world, and the main thing is we've archived them since we've been making these recordings. A couple of things that stand out to me from the normal stuff that we have a look at is the level of CO2 in the atmosphere. It's a very low reading compared to what we normally get, and you can see just how low that is if you scroll down into the archive of data at 418 parts per million. I think the week before that it was just in 420s. So these are relatively low readings, and they could begin to get lower as the temperature on our planet slowly but gradually declines as we go back into that Milankovitch cycle, where the orbit of the Earth changes from a spherical to a more elliptical. So you can see atmospheric oxygen is perfectly where it should be. Then we've got the latest magnetic pole position used or gathered from our TriMag system every month, on usually around the 17th of you guys know. We've got background radiation, just slightly less than what it was the week before we done. We've got 26 volcanoes in eruption, so that number hasn't changed. One thing that has changed is the level slightly of muons. One of our superstar in Canada has gathered for us. As you can see, that's at 1087 per hour per square meter muons, so there's a slight increase there. And we've also got some more activity on the solar discs at the moment. We've got 6 active regions. That's a number I haven't seen for quite a while, but everything else is as normal. We've got a quiet geomagnetic field, the solar X-rays are normal, the jet stream is unstable, as you know, because of the Earth is going through a magnetic pole reversal. It has affected our jet streams more specifically over the last 30 years than what we've ever seen before. It's not by any coincidence that in the last 30 years there has been an increase in migrational speed, so we've covered more distance in less time, generally speaking. And our magnetosphere has weakened 15 to 20%, but we calculate that our magnetosphere by a mean amount of microteslas measured from different parts of the world where we have equipment, and that's how we end up with our figure for the magnetosphere. But there is no significant changes in that so far, but don't expect that to be the case, because we're probably about 15-16 months away now from hitting a critical point or theoretical point that we've been talking about for a long time. We're that close to it now. We're about to see whether our theory stands its ground and things start to increase more so now than what we've ever seen before in terms of the migrating poles over the northern hemisphere. Of course, I'm talking about that 40-degree mark, aren't I? Guys, it would be amazing if we could get a little bit more support for this observatory. Remember, January was our cut-off point to try and do something about the deficit, and in the last 4 to 5 days we haven't raised that much at all. On the website, where we store all our archive data, we've probably covered about £4 in the last week and a half. We've done a little bit better on the PayPal link, but that needs to improve massively before we start to slip back into further debt in the deficit. So we're asking people to appreciate what we do and make a donation to help keep us doing this into the new year. We're on the fringe of walking into 2022, and it would be amazing to hit the ground running with a little bit more support than what we're getting. So the link is down there in the description if you are one of those people that like to do a little bit more than just sit around on the sidelines and you want to get involved. Okay guys, have an amazing day, take care of your loved ones, and as always, bye for now.